On May 23, 1993, wax, or the discovery of television among the bees, entered the internet, projected by a cable into a wall. Inside that internet, there are no movies there. And so wax, waiting until the last frame enters the wall, then begins the first movie on the internet, to continue forever, for that is how the first movie on the internet begins, at the first frame after the last frame. A true story, and this is that movie, and in reverse. And so, we begin.
As you are aware, the internet is a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens, how the handle of the coffee cup becomes the hole in the center of the DVD. How the interior of the coffee cup disappears into the surface of a flat disc as I spin. I am the first movie on the internet. I am inside a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens. How the movie appears between two frames, between the front and the back of the DVD disc. I am the first frame after the last frame. I am the movie in the DVD on the coffee cup. I am wax, or the discovery of television among the bees. I am 999 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 48 seconds long. And then it was dark, until dawn.
And that I would kill again in Basra, southern Mesopotamia. And that I would kill again in Basra, southern Mesopotamia. And that I would kill again in Basra, southern Mesopotamia. And that I would kill again in Basra, southern Mesopotamia.
The cartoon stars wiggle, portending happiness for us and all those under or in front of their spell. Cain crinkles his forehead in joy, so that we can read the wrinkles, which are permanent. His happiness expressed, Cain retreats behind his beady eyes, wondering exactly how much he should trust us. We dissolve from Cain to the road map stuck careless in his pocket, a legible map of Basra in near modern times, written in a language we are happy to be able to understand. He wanders from place to place, but always reads the relevant tourist literature at night, tucked in his bedroll on the dark, deep, dirty, endless, rocky, sandy, wet, lizard-strewn ground, planning with some gusto his next decade of hungry wander. Other miscellaneous objects are stored in the backpack of Cain, including this stolen flat stone relief of a warrior archer doing the sort of thing that Cain likes to see done, if it is done with the proper heart, at the proper time, by the proper and properly trained individual. When Jacob left the Deseret test facility to wander through the desert, he saw for a moment through the strangely named Squirt TV. Now he sees through that violent TV again as it repeats its descent onto an empty target, a void dot atop a wood shack constructed by people for the TV's deathly amusement on the suicide flats of Deseret. A near-distance explosion of a black and white tank in a dull and vague space. A B game, serious only for grubs and drones, nonetheless, interesting as a general indicator of cultural values inside the murderous hive, or inside the soul of this hive, since we have already determined that the bees are but innocent shells for the manipulations of human spirits, who have traveled here by car and shoe and tank and tractor, to perform despicable acts. Who wouldn't? Who hasn't? Collapse of a triangularly fragmented, noise-walled beat on itself with sudden and determined finality, as if an explosion could best be expressed by an implosion. Such actions have no pause. After a pulse, it rushes back out to join our faces at the screen surface.
As I spoke to her, I realized again that I was Zoltan Abbasid. I was already dead. As I spoke to her, I realized again that I was Zoltan Abbasid. I was already dead. As I spoke to her, I realized again that I was Zoltan Abbasid. I was already dead. As I spoke to her, I realized again that I was Zoltan Abbasid. I was already dead.
That beats in his head. Jacob standing, face out, in the anti-void, a happy space which has often been associated with the subjective point of view of the dead. Black and white mouths, color mouths, and the simple face of a generous Jacob, who is not sure who he is or who he is indebted to, as he endlessly mumbles a thankful prayer, perhaps meant to keep bad things he can't imagine from happening to him. The sleepy yapper of a blue skull, which has its nose bone up to who knows whose thigh bone, probably its own, and seems quite happy about the fact, which we register through an open-jawed expression which may actually be more permanent than any sleep-made happiness. The marching advance of blue crystals, a type of synthetic movement which is actually a form of reproduction in this place we are visiting. Mineral happiness, better species through chemistry. Life is lived in the sands of all the beaches, baking waterless under those ammonium skies lit by the purple glare of other suns.
Yet I was still Jacob Maker. So I already had my new body. Yet I was still Jacob Maker. So I already had my new body. Yet I was still Jacob Maker. So I already had my new body. Yet I was still Jacob Maker. So I already had my new body.
From marching ice crystals, we suddenly shift to a pan upwards, across the hanging stone of a cave crystal hive. The entire cave stone has the color of wax. Or those soft contact lenses you took up, the gift given you by the strange optometrist you met in the subway. They're not plastic, but wax, softly melting now across the surface of your eye. You can wash it off, but you may not even notice the change. Or you might like the change, or the thoughts and feelings that come with it. As the story will tell you, hidden in those walls are wax bodies, who wait the magic spark of activation. Vengeance is of course the force which they anticipate, which will make them walk when the time comes for them to live and take on faces. Four-eyed James Hivemaker keeps his eyes on this, forwards and backwards. He's been waiting since the beginning for something to happen, and wants to be there when it does. It is certain that he will be.
There was vengeance for the dead in this cave. They wanted me. There was vengeance for the dead in this cave. They wanted me. There was vengeance for the dead in this cave. They wanted me. There was vengeance for the dead in this cave. They wanted me.
Jacob looking up through the light, probably at the faceless figures of the wax statues. He hopes to become one someday in the future. The haze of northern lights making a coherent rope dance in the cave or far away, or both places at once, united by the stare of the careless Jacob. The opaque wall of stone wax comb, which has long up and down ribbons of stone wax, frozen static that struck here from the electric space of the northern lights, and then collected and processed by the thinking bees. The empty invitation in the center of a wax cell. It is a place to be born, or to get something to eat, or to leave your work behind, in the hope that you will be able to get some of back at a later date.
So I went into the darkness to hide. So I went into the darkness to hide. So I went into the darkness to hide. I went into the darkness to hide.
Deep inside Inside the cell's darkness lies the set of counter-spinning log cubes. Cabin home for the wandering and vague soul that Jacob has always been. If Jacob were Cain, he would look sharply at this sight as he passed it on the highway, noting it down in his small remaining memory as a potential resting spot for later in the day. The long paired rows of hexagons lead to no particular point. If there is no vanishing point for a picture like this, it is because parallel lines intersect well before infinity here, at an empty point which has even less materiality than a 1D point in our true space. An empty cross-eyed dot of undeveloping distance resolves into the marble, aggie eye of hoe-split reclining Abel. Cain's eye is an image of the hollow donut-shaped earth, a sphere with a single hole in it. Notice how his eyelashes delicately introduce themselves as a simple frame, and how, all in all, this his square eye is surrounded by a profound black. Multiple spherical wireframe counter-worlds within, or without, counter-worlds here, lost continents invisible on the purely triangular rendering of enclosed Earth surfaces. This is the sort of road that Cain likes to see in front of him in the morning, when the sky is dark, and the blood is itching in his hands.
An escort appeared to take me to asylum. An escort appeared to take me to asylum. An escort appeared to take me to asylum. An escort appeared to take me to asylum.
From the top left a two-headed tire appears, perhaps a topological variant on the hollow Earth, or just a hermaphrodite with an unusual taste in transportation. This helpful pair rotates round and round in center screen, like a two-headed dog looking for its tail after losing its legs. It seems very possible that nose exhalations spur this rotation, and that the force of gaseous thoughts expelled from the four ears is used to stabilize this rotation. The tire people rotate, self-dissolving in order to give us a sense of the types of freedom that a universal coordinate system can offer to the able dancer with insubstantial body.
I followed it into the darkness. Past the vengeance sign, to the graveyard, where words were born. I followed it into the darkness. Past the vengeance sign, to the graveyard, where words were born. I followed it into the darkness. Past the vengeance sign, to the graveyard, where words were born. I followed it into the darkness. Past the vengeance sign, to the graveyard, where words were born.
More gas out of the noses of these creatures, as they struggle to speak or hum their way into consciousness, or at least, through spinning, generate enough static electricity to create a spark across the blank substance of their space and into Jacob's battery-powered brain. The hermaphrodite drops into darkness, and as usual we question whether the one we see dropping in this shot is the one we saw spinning in the last shot. So much rhetorical doubt. Do you really look into your coffee to see your face? Nope. And if you don't drink yours with milk, you don't look in to see the swirling galaxies either. Just nothing in there. And if you stick a sugar cube halfway in, wow, the coffee just crawls right up and eats it all away. Where there is one question, there is always a twin, plus a twin of the twin, and other relatives or support medical staff. What might have been a new hermaphrodite is now followed, on a different vector, by one that looks the same, acts the same, but is in a different space sector, and so also leads us to wonder whether it is an original, or just the same seen a different way. We stare at the spinning tires of the empty train, ignoring the dark passing in front of our eyes. Clack, clack. It looks like another tire has fallen off the train and is rolling off to the empty landscape. All the cows once out there on the range, past visibility, long ago turned into hamburger, or just waste. Time or space shaped like a circular clock, transparently triggers a rearrangement of the Garden of Eden cave sign, that perpetual rotating novelty. There is always someone new passing through to see it afresh. Listening nearby, hunched with dread, is a sphere with dead words clumped on it, like little monkeys on their mother's back. Rotation provides adequate ventilation and rapid growth.
As this was a place guarded by the oldest of the dead. As this was a place guarded by the oldest of the dead. As this was a place guarded by the oldest of the dead. This was a place guarded by the oldest of the dead.
Now, out of the great, bounded, and perpetual dark, a little sphere drops towards us. A monkey form waits ritually in the shadows, charged with the simple job of tending the goal, and so anxious either to catch or bounce away that approaching Jacob dot. That little monkey, long-armed and short in the chest, rises to bounce the happy or unhappy ball. We will continue, like that ball, to fall into the dark with the hero. More, or at least one more, or those spheroids drop or rise from the source of plenty, somewhere out of frame. There are many monkey goalkeepers available here in the flat-edged dark, at least twice as many of them as there are us in ball shape. Two of monkey types, who look a bit more civilized in their limb proportions, pop up in friendly fear, without pause, spring power. These automata bounce off to the binary distances, one to either side of our viewing head.
There, the soul fragments of animals were sharpened and organized into complicated floating weapons. The soul fragments of animals were sharpened and organized into complicated floating weapons. The soul fragments of animals were sharpened and organized into complicated floating weapons. The soul fragments of animals were sharpened and organized into complicated floating weapons.
An invisible light rotates around a stone-faced faceted sphere, which, like many square buildings in this land, dissolves to reveal its doorness, i.e. it only exists to serve as a door to what is not inside it, and exercises this essential self by vanishing through a dissolve. This door opening gives birth to a triplet crowd of fragments, which immediately follows some flight instinct which forces them to flee towards the three corners of the screen. The passage of a single razor-edged streams. From this Star Wars-like perspective, we see the proto-words all together as a spaceship made without glue in an airless upside-down place, like under the sink. These fragments, originally perhaps all lost parts from model kits of castles and jet planes, pass with some dignity under us, each having unknown function. Principles of self-organization force the spontaneous reassemblage of the model parts to a paragraph-shaped spaceship that flies back on screen from the dark left, passing laterally so that we can admire its proportions. Strung and hung from an invisible center string, the sentences of this poem mobile rotate for us. We admire the sharpness of its many points, and also enjoy the ointment of the dark which constantly dresses the wounds made by the swing around. Wild animal imitators sing in the background. A more solid caravan settles into a clump. A more secure and settled unit. Agriculture is surely next.
Beyond was safety. The puzzle planets, shuffling in perpetual confusion. Beyond was safety. The puzzle planets, shuffling in perpetual confusion. Beyond was safety. The puzzle planets, shuffling in perpetual confusion. Beyond was safety. The puzzle planets, shuffling in perpetual confusion.
An empty sphere surrounded by rotating light appears right in our face, then withdraws. A time capsule, filled with unfed thoughts and unfulfilled obligations, extracted from our tongue and forehead, sent down to the deep, a sailor's farewell. Bye-bye. Later, in a happy future, people with magnets, our intended audience, will retrieve them from the muck, and wonder at their luck finding such a valuable time capsule at the beach, in the seaweed, on their vacation. Dozens of portal worlds, all carrying children, and counter-rotating in anticipation of various eclipse modes. We draw closer to their flat yet hyperspheric space. In a different projection, which presents the nausea of a handheld calculator, simple cousin of these computed planets, objects that were near appear far, and vice versa, or perhaps not. These relative planets pass on every side of us, though the magic square of the TV screen does offer a certain rhetorical safety.
I went down to one which had a moon. This was my secret planet of refuge. I went down to one which had a moon. This was my secret planet of refuge. I went down to one which had a moon. This was my secret planet of refuge. I went down to one which had a moon. This was my secret planet of refuge.
Somewhere corresponding to down, there is a big planet and a small moon, though this might actually be plant life in a graviton void. It appears that either for purposes of reproduction, or just in order to cast a shadow, moon spheres follow one another here.
I couldn't pronounce its name. I couldn't pronounce its name. I couldn't pronounce its name. I couldn't pronounce its name.
A large object made of potential pronunciations, with a rectangular thickness to its hollow limbs, rotates as if it were a diagram of all the other motions that the moon is making outside this simple space. Back to the rotation of Pluto, ice planet and dog, around the unnameable spherical thing. Actually, the inner sphere is just made of triangles. How many triangles in 30 hexagons that aren't hexagons? How high the moon? These are issues of representation that have not been addressed by the technicians of this system. One more shadow moon, like a ratchet gear in a cinema machine, makes its appearance as a veritable evil twin, something like the missing planet that rotates in twin with Earth, always hidden from us by the mist of the central sun.
There, I was born again. As the X shape, a floating gun sight. There, I was born again. As the X shape, a floating gun sight. There, I was born again. As the X shape, a floating gun sight. There, I was born again. As the X shape, a floating gun sight.
A moon emerges from inside the moon. Like planets should, they accidentally move into alignment, which will soon cause birth of the X shape. The birth of the X shape passes quickly. Suddenly we're back just to the twinned pair, planet and moon. The rotation and alignment that produced the X shape were part of the motion of a production line. More excess on the way. Or it could be the dynamic image of other dimensional rookery, filled with many 4D eggs, all rotating in their own space, out of phase with one another, and collectively exhibiting the entire birth process in a form difficult to decipher. Here's the afterbirth X, swinging free on an invisible path. Symmetric to itself, it revolves through space pretending that its own center is the true universal axis, and that all space spins around it while it just stands still. Egoids dance or do something singular around the X, or, of course, elsewhere. Both are insubstantial, and time is passing. The rituals of mechanical birth in the planetary void isn't necessarily a friendly thing, so be careful not to get sentimental about what you see.
It was time to return. I plunged into the center of a planet and traveled towards the place where my old self was standing. It was time to return. I plunged into the center of a planet and traveled towards the place where my old self was standing. It was time to return. I plunged into the center of a planet and traveled towards the place where my old self was standing. It was time to return. I plunged into the center of a planet and traveled towards the place where my old self was standing.
Weird spheres advance towards us, resembling a ratcheting Maltese cross, seen early in the film, when we looked into the side of the projector to see how such things worked. Out of its motivating center sweeps the X shape, with a certain destiny, or at least a fixed way of looking at things, determining its careful movements. One wonders where the brain of this thing is, or if instead it is radio controlled. The lovely X shape swings into the womb of a flower-like planet. A travel tube appears, and sucks the existing image and our own selves into it, so that we travel down through nothing to another place only different from here because it is a different time there. Our telescopic eyes are aimed at the sun in the center of a hollow planet. A tiny flame burns in the center of the sun, a candle lit long ago, before the entire place caught flame. It still flickers, patron saint of the immolation around it. If there is a sun inside the hollow earth, there might be planets, and as such an astrology associated with their movements. Here the influence of such internal rotations and conjunctions is represented by the circular void at the center of a poem in the language of Cain. A rotating V2, gyring along the x-axis, in a constant and hopefully useless progression, leads us directly to Jacob standing far above the cave. Transport is easy in the void. Ladderless Jacob walked here. Below him is darkness, the original form of the rock which has articulated around it, though of course it does pass through the intermediate stage of haze.
The X-shaped led, and my old self followed, flying through the darkness on the B television. That miraculous shape given me by the bees, and now being taken back by them. The X-shaped led, and my old self followed, flying through the darkness on the B television. That miraculous shape given me by the bees, and now being taken back by them. The X-shaped lead and my old self followed, flying through the darkness on the B television. That miraculous shape given me by the bees, and now being taken back by them. The X-shaped lead and my old self followed, flying through the darkness on the B television. That miraculous shape given me by the bees, and now being taken back by them.
We passed through the compressed, dark and living pixel entrance to the deep cave tunnel, which swallows us here. Good thing you're dressed for the beach under your uniform. Shuck off those pants and coats. Swim now, as if your life depended on your swimming lessons. Round and round, down the gorge, past Pinocchio, and Jonah and the Fantastic Four and that tiny Irwin Allen submarine and yesterday's French fries, still intact. How's that? Don't you chew an undissolved antibiotic time bomb capsules, etc., etc. Jacob walks out to the harsh edge again and pauses. He can hear his own footsteps and wonders who is following him. He may not know where he is. He doesn't see that he is about to fall. Nearby, the X shape is rushing through the darkness, left to right, top to bottom, accidentally drawing the crude shape of a square in 4D space. Static electricity generated by the spin of its passing is enough to make the hair in Jacob's ears stick straight out. He may not know this is why they itch a bit. The passage of the X shape triggers the implosion of multiple imaged and self-aware triangles into a particularly large beat, with the picture of Jacob at the cave entrance visible on each facet. A single triangle blocks our point of view, then begins to rotate. Eyes appear everywhere on the TV. Slide past Jacob's wiggling eye to see into the empty center of the beat, covered with images of the walleye. Jacob stands like a mote of dust on the pupil, or lip of the entrance. We travel down to the darkness at center of each eye, where little suited Jacob stands at the edge of the void. Traveling across the spinning connected facets here at the anti-center of the BTV, we see Jacob standing right side up and upside down, and all other variations of those basic directions. A near infinite number of bees, many identical. The still incongruous unattached facet breaks into the bottom of the frame, rising until it completely hides the multiple shape behind it. With a bounce, they fill the screen for no time, then retreat. Boing. Here comes another one. Inside a beat whose vanishing point has traveled off to the distance. A coherent hive clump of bees is visible far below you, straight out through a hyperbolic space. Then you are surrounded by foreshortened bees. Actually, foreshortened in reverse, tiny hands reaching towards you, and big clumsy feet hanging out back, giant shoelaces, untied, and a great infinite grid of a floor just past that, covered with over-large dust and significant clumps left by still drying chewing and the scratch marks left by burger wrappers that, in great dying agony, have dragged themselves to the corners to sleep. Your hyper-Euclidean companions disappear as the center clump resolves itself into a distant dense BTV, which suddenly recognizes the need for new space and stretches its perspective out in an attempt to cover the screen again. Plastic wrap across the image surface. A new form of lens of tiny thickness but great subtlety, embraced by all the hipster TV bees. The TV rotates until one facet pops up to cover the screen and as suddenly bounces back down to the near void. There it becomes center of a void triangle defined by three other ordinary TV facets. That void and triangle structure bounces up towards us, then retreats as suddenly to reveal the next layer of its onion or apple or pea flower structure, consisting of 6 more triangles. This 9-leafed flower rotates until an alternate structure dissolves in, with each triangle again covered by Jacob's innocent pyramid eye. Most of these eyes sidle off to the dark on individual tangents, while the central approaches us slowly. As it reaches our faces, movement quickens. Cave-top Jacob pops in for the last time, moving so close that we can count the indeterminate number of pixels that make him up.